I'm Faith. We're going to do some Pilates principles here through movement. We're going to start on our backs. So I think of it as a bit of a Pilates 101 class. We're not going to do all the basics, but we're going to hit several of them here. So you're going to start on your backs, and your hands are going to be on your belly. Your elbows can be just dropped on the floor, and you're going to start to tune into where you're breathing. So obviously you're breathing in your lungs, but where else, where are you sending that breath? What effect is that having through your torso? Your eyes can be opened or closed. And before you really check in with where the breath is going, notice if you're holding any superfluous tension. So perhaps through the front of the thighs, the hips, or the feet, or the jaw, or the neck. All those places can just be easy. The butt doesn't need to be squeezed here. See how easy you can make this, how passive you can make this laying position. I just noticed I was holding a little tension in my shoulders. Let that go. And then where are you sending the breath? What parts of your torso are expanding and contracting as you inhale and exhale? It's really common to have the chest expand, either all the way up by the throat, kind of lifting towards the chin, or the center of the chest lifting up towards the ceiling on the inhale. It's common to have the belly rise and fall with the inhalation and exhalation. Can you also expand your side body? Can you expand into the side ribs and into the side waist as you inhale? And then even more challenging than the side body, can you expand into the back body as you inhale? So keying into your torso as a cylinder all the way, starting up at the shoulder girdle, including the clavicles, and going down into the pelvis, through the bones of the pelvis. That whole cylinder expands broader three-dimensionally, front, side, back as you inhale. And the entire cylinder gets narrower as you exhale. You might find some major blind spots or kind of roadblocks here at first. And you might feel zero expansion through your back body. You may feel zero expansion through your side body. It is a practice, and it's not going to be perfect in the very beginning. But really, all the muscles of your torso are breathing muscles, not just your diaphragm. All the muscles contribute in some small or large way to breath function. So when you breathe really fully, it doesn't have to be this way 100% of your day, but when you allow this expansion through the muscles and that release through the muscles with the exhale, you are contributing to both your core strength, your core kind of stability mechanics, and your lung function. We're going to keep going with this and add some movement to it. Here's where your hands on your belly comes into play even a little bit more. So with a big three-dimensional inhale, with a big three-dimensional exhale, you draw your abdominals down and gently draw your low back into the mat, and you see if you can find some really easy, gentle tone through your abdominal wall. So you can feel in there and see if you can find some gentle, even muscle tone. And then as you inhale, there's some movement through the low back and the pelvis as you come back into neutral. So neutral is a little bit of space or lightness under your low back, that natural low back lumbar curve. And then your hip bones and your pubic bone are about level with each other. They don't have to be perfectly level, but they're pretty much on the same plane, as opposed to your hip bones being much lower than your pubic bone. So you're looking for that space or lightness under your low back. Your back muscles don't need to be engaged here. You're just kind of equal length, really as if you're in plank through your torso, through front body and back body. And with your exhale, old school Pilates, it's called Imprint. You tuck your hips under, which is posterior pelvic tilt. Your pubic bone now is higher than your hip bones. And you're doing this, the driving force is your transverse abdominals and your obliques. They're drawing down, hugging into the organs. As you inhale, your pelvis rolls gently the other way, just back to neutral. And as you exhale, draw the abdominals down. You're gonna do that several more times. I want you to notice as you do this, if you're squeezing your butt to make that happen or if you're pushing into your feet to make that happen. Try to let both of those things go and really key into your abdominals to be the driving force. Abdominals engage, like saran wrap or corset, draw in, hugging into the organs, drawing down. It's not the navel, it's really even tone from your ribs to your hips. Inhale, find the length through the side waist, find the length yet connection through the front body, and then exhale, deepen that connection. Really feel in, I don't care what's on top of the muscle, but see if you can find some gentle muscle tone entirely across your abdominal wall there. Inhaling back into length, and then exhale, last one, pelvic tilt. Draw your abdominals down, gently press your low back into the mat. Inhale, you are back in neutral spine or neutral pelvis, neutral low back here. Hip bones and pubic bone level, little space or lightness under your low back. Ribs anchored and heavy to the floor. Lift one leg up to tabletop. As you set it down, you prepare to lift the other one. So another, I call this marching usually, colloquially, but another technical PT name for it is thigh arc. And I love that, although it's definitely a bit more technical because you're thinking much more about the thigh arcing in towards you and arcing away from you than you are about kicking the foot up towards the ceiling or lifting the foot. It's what's happening at the hip joint that's important in this exercise, and you are flexing and extending or going towards extension at the hip joint. The thigh is just moving straight in towards you and landing perpendicular to the floor and setting down. This should feel like a really light weight load. The abdominals should feel gentle kind of bracing and activation, but it's not going to feel like a ton of work here. So you're looking for really simple movement of the thigh bone, the femur, right in the hip socket. It's also great hip joint training here. So if this feels way too simple and you feel like it's super easy to just hold the complete stability through your torso, you can add on. One leg comes up, the other leg comes up, the first one sets down, and the second one sets down. You're going to lead with the opposite leg now. So I am right up, right down, left down. Switch, left up, left down, right down. You're going to keep alternating your lead leg, and you're going to check back in with your torso. Is it completely still? Do you feel anchored through your pelvis and through your ribs? It's also a bit of a good brain challenge to keep alternating the lead leg there. Creates a bit of brain challenge. And your abdominals are drawing down the entire time. So they're not pooping up to the ceiling. They're not doing that either. They're not pooching up towards the ceiling. I don't care what's on top of the muscle, but the muscle is drawing down the entire time. If you feel like you're holding your legs up from your back, if your back muscles feel like they're doing the majority of work, or it feels uncomfortable in your back, stick to the single legs. If it feels like you can't lift your second leg up without your belly popping up towards the ceiling rather than staying down flat, then stick with one leg at a time. Both legs are going to stay up here, and you're going to change the exercise. Left side body is going to stay completely grounded, and your right leg is just going to move in that right angle away from midline and then back to midline. Other side, the right hip, the right side waist is going to stay completely grounded as the left leg moves away from center and back to center. And you're going to keep going from side to side. So one leg just opens straight to the side. Notice it's going to be tempting to let the standing leg open up as well. The standing leg is the name for the leg that doesn't move. But the work here is in keeping everything stable and still except for one leg as it opens and closes. Take a few more side to side. This exercise is working your rotators, your oblique muscles, to stabilize. Rather than working them to rotate through the torso, it's working them to stabilize. Last one like this. You can hug the knees into the chest. Just kind of rock it around and give it a little rest there. You're going to do hip rolls here. So your feet are planted several inches, probably about a foot from your seat, and then just a couple inches apart from each other so that they're right in line with your hip joints. You're going to start the same way you did for pelvic tilts, which is to draw your abdominals down, tuck your hips under, but here's where you squeeze your butt and you start to roll up through the spine. So at the top, you can gently push your arms down and you're in a long line from your shoulders to your knees. You're not pressing up so high that you're in a back bend like a yoga bridge, but pull your ribs down inside the frame of your torso. On your next exhale, soften right below the throat and roll it down through the spine, releasing all the way at the bottom. Exhale, sink your abdominals down, tuck your hips under and roll it up. Inhale, nice and long at the top, and exhale, use the front body, pulling the abdominal wall down, all the way down to the bottom. One way to think about this to help the mobilization, the articulation to the spine is like you have a marble that starts on your pubic bone and you're rolling the marble all the way up with control to the front of your throat. And then you reverse it. The marble starts in the front of your throat and you roll it down the front body all the way back down to the pubic bone. Do that one more time. Roll, 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 roll all the way up to the top. Long line at the top, strong through both glutes, and roll it back down. You're going to change to what's called a hip lift now. So instead of moving and articulating through your spine is now one unit, like a board, like a plank. And as you exhale, you squeeze your butt, lift it up to the top. Release the glutes, so you have to hinge at the hip, getting that really true hinge of the femur and the hip socket. Press it up and lower back down. Press and lower. Press and lower. The top looks the same as the hip roll. You're landing in a long diagonal. The hips are as high as they can go. The ribs are as low as they can go. So both the hips and the ribs are inside the frame of the torso. They're not breaking in either direction, but they're long inside the frame of the torso, and release back down. Last one like that, and lower it back down. Take your feet a little bit wider and just let them rotate from side to side. Just let them slide from side to side, rather. Your head can go the opposite direction if you like, if that feels good. Bring your left leg up to tabletop. You're going to put your left hand on the front of the left thigh, and you're going to push the thigh into the hand and the hand into the thigh. Both sides of the waist are long. Notice if the left hip kind of wants to hike up and shorten that side waist. Both side waists are long. And then you're going to reach the fingers and toes in opposition, and then bring it back in and push. Push the hand into the thigh into the hand. So you're working your deep hip flexors, your psoas muscle here. See if you can bring the thigh in a little bit closer without pressing your low back into the mat. And then reach long and away. Ribs stay anchored down to the floor rather than letting them lift here. You're still strong and controlled through the front body. Do that one more time on this side. Push, push, push. And then reach long and away through the fingers and toes, ribs down. Switch sides with that. Give that thigh a push. So you're working the front of the right hip now. And then as you reach long and away, the front body holds on to that engagement and that strength, rather than just flopping down onto the floor and dropping the ribs up. Dropping the ribs up, pressing the ribs up. So ribs stay anchored, go long through the front of the body. 2 more times like that. Give it a press. See if you can bring the thigh in a little bit closer without hiking the hip towards the armpit or dropping the back. Last one. And go long, long, long. Set the foot down, and again, just let that go with dropping the knees from side to side. Come onto your side. If you're on a traditional mat, you can think of lining the torso up with the back of the mat and then pulling the knees forward, having the knees straight out from the hips and then the heels straight down from the knees. So you're thinking right angle between the torso and the thighs, right angle between the thighs and the shins. And then from here, lift your bottom waistline up. I'm laying on my left side, so my left waistline lifts up. If you're mirroring me, you're on your right waistline lifts up. Both sides of the waist are long, and you're just going to lift and lower your top leg. It's not a huge movement. I'm not going maximum range of motion. I'm thinking of lifting just higher than my hip joint. As I do this, the hips stay stacked, the shoulders stay stacked, the bottom waistline stays lifted and the ribs stay inside the frame of the body. What the ribs are going to want to do here, it's really tempting to just let them kind of press forward and flare. So upper abs are strong, ribs pull back. Changing it a little bit higher than the hip height, you press the leg long and slightly back behind you without changing the ribs or the back at all. And then bend the leg back in, bend the knee back in. So press long and away. You might even take your hand to the back of your leg, your thigh, and your butt, and tell that area that it's on. It gets to work a little bit right there as you press the leg back. 2 more like that. Press, press, press back. And last one. The top of the head reaches out. Your head's in line with the rest of your spine. And then bring it down and switch it to the other side. So you are on your side, 90-90, torso to thighs and thighs to shins. Lift your bottom waistline up, gentle flex through the ankles, which I don't think I said on the other side, but it helps to just kind of control the leg all the way down. Make that connection between the heel and the top of the leg. And then it's really tempting to want to watch your legs here, but only watch them if you feel like you need to really check in whether you're not level through the leg, doing something funky like one of those options. Otherwise, let the head be a long extension of the rest of the spine so that you're not pulling your head forward and looking at your legs. Keep the leg up, reach the leg long, slightly back behind you without going so far that you push your front body forward, and bend it back in. The hand on the hip can be helpful here, or the hand really on the pelvis, wrapped around the pelvis, so that you feel that it's stable and anchored, hip on top of hip. Top hip isn't rolling open, nor is it pulling up towards the armpit. Do 2 more like that. Press out, leg goes long, connected through the back of the leg. Last one. And then let it come down. You stretch out post hip work by crossing one ankle over the thigh and then pulling it all in for a hip stretch. You can pull it in tight at first. That might feel really wonderful and feel like a big deep stretch, and then do another version. So that's getting the larger muscle groups to get deep into the hip rotators and into piriformis, which is also a hip rotator. Come back into that neutral pelvis. For me, it means I can't hold onto my shin. I have to hold onto my thigh, send my legs away from me a little bit, drop my tailbone down towards the floor, and get that space under my low back again. Switch sides. So we're doing 2 versions of this. The first one, you can just pull it in as tight as you want. You can roll it around a little bit. It can feel a little bit like you're curled, like slightly curled in towards a ball with your spine. And then see, I gotta release a little bit because I'm not flexible enough to hold my shin to do this in order to really lengthen out my spine. So the very top of the head and my tailbone are going away from each other. If I was on a mat, I would be thinking top of the mat and bottom of the mat, going away from each other that way. And then you can hug your knees into your chest. So the real reason I did this little workout is because I did it with my parents this morning, and I did a live with them, and I wanted to record it so that they could repeat it, and I thought it might be valuable to share as well. So please let me know if you have any questions. Just a quick little Pilates primer there with some exercises that are often included in a mat class. Thank you.